everyone, and thank you all for coming out to our What Cause Inspires You podcast with Rainn Wilson on this beautiful Thursday night. Before we get started, feel free to put your screen in speaker mode so you can best follow along with this interview. All right, Humanity Rising is a student-led movement to create a more compassionate and better world through service. Young people have the power to change the world now, and we help students discover their passion, give them a platform to share what they're doing to inspire their peers to action, and award scholarships for outstanding social impact movements. My name is Alicia Gupta, and I will be your host for today's podcast. For those of you new to our series, welcome. And for those of you who have been following along since day one, thank you. And stick along to not only hear my conversation with Rainn today, but our scholarship winners and upcoming events held by Humanity Rising as well. 1 year ago, I joined Humanity Rising with the sole purpose of learning from students who have started their own movements and helping those students gain the coverage needed to accelerate social justice, and learning from professionals who have dedicated their life to social entrepreneurship through our newly initiated Professional Perspective series. What I didn't realize is that those students and those professionals range from a variety of industries, ages, and backgrounds. Through beginning and hosting the What Cause Inspires You podcast series, communities from around the world are able to hear from and be inspired by young change makers, and then join them into creating positive change. We now have weekly podcasts that feature students and other extraordinary change makers who are advocating for social justice, entrepreneurship, and innovative solutions to better our world. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Rainn Wilson, or as some of you might better know him, Dwight, from the popular TV show The Office. In 2007, Rainn Wilson became involved with the Mona Foundation, a nonprofit organization that supports grassroots educational initiatives worldwide. And in 2014, he joined the board of directors. Along with a very successful career in acting, comedy, writing, and producing, Rainn has been very involved in working with youth through the arts, which led him and his wife to found LIDE Haiti, which we will be hearing more about today. Today, we're going to hear from Rainn Wilson and our Humanity Rising Ambassador leadership team. Then we will open it up to a Q&A with Rainn live, followed by our scholarship award ceremony, where we will hear from some of our outstanding youth change makers. We also have another special guest joining in later, so be sure to stay for the entire event. The beautiful thing about people is that we all face different experiences that shape who we are. No one is just an actor or just an advocate or just a speaker. And today we are going to uncover more about Rainn's journey as a humanitarian. So Rainn, are you ready to begin?
I am. Hi, Alicia. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're going to start right off with the Humanity Rising mission. Humanity Rising challenges students to find their service passion, whether that is hunger or homelessness, the environment, or any number of social causes. So Rainn, in keeping with that, please tell us what cause inspires you.
Well, that's a great question. Here's the problem. There's so many causes that inspire me. So it's not really, I don't know that it's the right question, because it's not which cause inspires you. It's what can we do to make a difference? And I love how you talk about students as change makers, because there's so many different causes that need addressing. Now, we can't tackle them all, but I can't just narrow it down. I'm passionate about girls' education. I'm passionate about climate change. I'm passionate about mental health awareness, and many, many more. I even donate to the monarch butterflies and save the sea turtles. So I'm involved on a lot of different levels. But I will say that if I had to boil it down to one general topic, it would be education, because education is the source of real change. If you want to change anything, if you want to make a difference in social justice or economic disparity or the environment, or mental health, focus on education, because it's just like you guys are doing. It's creating future change makers, thought leaders, community service workers, social change activists through education that is going to make a real difference.
Very beautifully said, and I totally agree. Rainn, I'm actually taking an Afro entrepreneurship class right now about how minority businesses can get started. And it boils down to that education aspect as well. It's getting as many resources out there for as many people possible so we can really bind together like that community aspect and help one another to further that change, whether it's hunger, homelessness, or any myriad of causes. So working
Wonderful.
with a variety of causes and people from different backgrounds, what's one story or incident that you still carry with you today or has motivated you to continue your journey as a philanthropist and advocate? And this can be any of the issues that you've worked with before.
Sure. So I'll tell a story about Haiti. So my wife and I visited Haiti in 2009 through the Mona Foundation, and we visited 5 schools there, and we really fell in love with the country. It was vibrant, incredible. The culture's amazing. The food's amazing. The music, the passion of the people, the humor, the artistry of the Haitian people, and then we left. 2 months later was one of the worst earthquakes in human history. 200,000 to 300,000 people died in a matter of minutes, um, right where we had stayed. And the hotel that we stayed in Haiti just slid down the mountainside. Everyone inside of it was killed. Um, so we knew we needed to do something. And that's when I know you're going to ask me about LIDE Haiti later, but I'm going to just jump to it now. And I'll be able to talk more about it later on. But um, we participated in a workshop sponsored by the United Nations on arts education for adolescent girls living in one of the tent camps. There were all these tent cities that were set up with, 20, 30, 40,000 people living in them, in parking lots and parks and golf courses and tennis courts and whatever kind of empty space they could find. And I was skeptical of the work we were doing. Like, why were we teaching the arts to girls in tents? Why did they need the arts? They needed shoes, they needed roofs, they needed meals, jobs. And here we are doing poetry and acting and photography and whatnot. And I think that this girl, about a couple days into the workshop, she said, you know, um, uh, she said, I see what you're doing. Other people come and they give us, they give us clothes, and other people come and they give us water, and other people come and they give us mosquito nets, and you come and you give us hope. And that really struck a nerve, that, again, coming back to education, that education uh, gives impact. It's not a handout. It's not like, oh, we always feel better. And it's a kind of an easy fix to be like, oh, these people are hungry. Here's a sandwich. Well, that doesn't solve, it solves the hunger for about, 4 hours, or in my case, about 45 minutes. But, that old adage, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, and teach a man to fish and he'll eat forever. And education works in the same way. So that kind of steered our course, my wife and I. Hi, Kirk Smalley's here. Hi, Kirk. And that kind of showed us the way that we could move forward with education.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny that you bring up, sometimes we're thinking about material items when we think of donations, because recently I've been really passionate about finding that hole in society. And so I started
Mm-hmm.
what is now called Needed But Forgotten, essentially with that
Mm-hmm.
in mind. What is needed for the communities, but often forgotten, the things that don't come in mind right away. And I also partnered with another organization called My3, and they do just that, but for victims of domestic violence, where it's about educating women and youth about the signs of domestic violence, partner violence, to help in those hard situations. So I think the line of thought that LIDE Haiti is running on about really educating, and I think what you said about bringing hope is really important. Sometimes it is about building the self-esteem and letting people know that there's a community and there's a support system around them that will be there to help pick them up from anything and just provide whatever resources that are needed. So going back to that LIDE Haiti organization, Rainn, did you have something?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and on that, I mean, you're speaking so wisely and articulately about education. You've obviously done a lot of work in this realm, and I applaud you because, listen, when we're talking about education, um, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic is super important. And one of the first things that happened when we started LIDE and we started doing our arts teaching, as the moms came and the kids came and they're like, we got to teach our girls to read, and we were like, wow, because they had about a 60% illiteracy rate. So we quickly added literacy um, to the equation. So that is super important. But it's something that you mentioned earlier, Alicia, about finding a voice. One of the things the arts does, and um, and and by the way, so that's one of my great passions is arts education, because arts education allowed me to be an actor. Arts education, I had some amazing teachers. It opened up all kinds of worlds of self-expression, of storytelling, of reaching people, of communicating, of making them laugh. This is all part of the arts, right? But even for those who don't become professional artists, um, it opens doors to finding confidence isn't exactly the right word. Empowerment is closer, but finding one's own voice. So, for a lot of the adolescent girls that we work with in rural Haiti and some of the poorest parts of one of the poorest countries in the world, um, it's this isn't about teaching them to spell better and to do math better, although that's important. Because if they don't understand that they're worthwhile, that they deserve to be listened to and seen, and that they have something to say, then none of the other education matters. It's just going to fall by the wayside, and they're just going to go into behaviors that are not necessarily helpful for the development of their soul. So, for instance, one day we were playing just a get to know you little game, and we said, what's your favorite color? And we had 30 young girls there, and one girl said blue, and the other girl said blue, and the next girl said blue, and the next girl said blue, and the next girl said blue. And we were kind of like, and then we kind of looked at their eyes and we saw, um, oh my God, no one had ever asked them this question before. This is not something they had really thought about. In America, kids, for the most part, are so mollycoddled. Like, what's your favorite color? How do you want your room decorated? What do you want for your 16th birthday? Oh, do you like this better? Do you like this better? And their opinions are constantly sought, um, maybe even to too much of a degree. But in a place like Haiti, where your average 10-year-old girl is getting up at 5 in the morning, you know, boiling water for tea for breakfast and doing the childcare and working in the fields and selling in the markets, you know, they're just worker drones, through much of that rural culture. And they're not asked, um, what do you think? What do you feel? What do you care about? What's important to you? So that process is crucial in education.
Yeah, there's so many parts of the response that I'd love to tackle. I'm not even sure where to begin, but I think going back to the arts and the word of empowerment that you just mentioned, it's funny that you say that. I'm a college student right now. I've done dance my entire life, but balancing school, work, and my passion for dance is obviously hard and a lot of time commitment. So people often ask me, why are you spending 4 hours a day in dance? And for all of my people on my dance team will agree, and we get that question asked all the time. But I think the truth is the arts provide that power, provides that release, provides that empathy and emotion for us dancers and for any other artists out there. And dance was actually my way into the community of social justice. And with that, I think it's helped me find my voice, but I can name you a bunch of other students who have come on our podcast and said that the arts have helped them in some way or another. And I'd like to believe that public speaking and really finding connections to the community is an example of that as well. We have students who are drawing cards for elderly. So they're connecting that art and education, but helping it towards somewhere in their community. Another student, one of my favorite examples to list, Jonathan Bell, he's an advocate on stuttering. And so now he actually speaks from school to school, from board meetings to community meetings about stuttering. And he's gotten over that, I guess, fear, or he used to get bullied for it as well, but he got over that stigma that people who stutter can't be beautiful speakers. And so the arts definitely has a connection to the outer world and to that feeling of empowerment. So bringing the arts to a place where they're not exposed to that, or that's not the first thing on their minds, is 100% the biggest accomplishment and the biggest thing that we can do to raise their hopes for youth in Haiti especially. So LIDE Haiti has obviously done an amazing work with local communities and grassroots organizations to really meet the community's direct needs, whether that's in education or arts or even natural disasters. I think that one of the biggest factors, however, to consider when starting any movement or nonprofit or venture is to make sure that you're really catering to, what the society is missing and help fix that root problem. So, Rainn, can you shed a little bit of light as to how you found that need in the community and how you partnered with locals?
Yes, what you say is very important. So we know, I'll be really blunt, there's for hundreds of years, there's been this problem of like white saviors, white saviorism. And that's happened a lot in Haiti, where there's been a lot of Westerners, a lot of very well-meaning folk who come down into a very poor country and see how things are very broken, and they try and bring their system and um, their way of working, their agenda, and hoist it onto people. So this is something we tackled right away in making sure that all of our senior staff were Haitian, that our board is Haitian, that um, uh, but before I get to more specific, let me back up a little bit and say that when we did that initial workshop, we saw these frail, timid, self-effacing girls with very small voices by the end of 2 weeks, speaking with confidence, reading poetry they had written, singing songs they had worked on, showing in a gallery photograph. A gallery was, by the way, a tent with banana leaves on the roof and pigs and goats running around while we were teaching arts classes. So the gallery, we hung up some strings and twine and some binder clips from Staples, and we hung up their photographs, the arts they had made. We did theater games and improvisations, and like I said, creative writing. And at the end of it, we saw such an incredible transformation in these girls that we knew. And not only that, we saw transformation in their internal powers, but we also saw a community being built among the girls that participated. We also saw um, a healing. We saw laughter and a healing and warmth after an incredible trauma, because the earthquake had just happened 2 months earlier. Many of them had lost multiple family members. So there was trauma healing, there was bonding, there was community building, there was kind of a sisterhood that was created, as well as these girls finding their voices. So as we undertook doing this work, we consulted with many Haitians. We really got the go-ahead of people saying that this was something that definitely Haiti needed, and it's most under appreciated and much aligned and maligned and abused population were adolescent girls. But we never wanted, first of all, we didn't want to work in Port-au-Prince, which was the capital city, because a lot of 90% of all nonprofits in Haiti are in Port-au-Prince, because it's easy to fly in from Miami, 2 hours away, stay at a nice hotel, have a nice dinner, go work in a poor area, and then fly back to the United States. And we wanted to go out into the regions that were very difficult to reach the most uh, needy populations. We never wanted to go somewhere without being invited. So we just went around, met with people in different arts organizations and churches, schools, educational initiatives, the United Nations, talked about what we were doing, what we were trying to do. And we didn't say anything about it. And then our first place was a school. And was like, we would love that. You know, we have all these girls, and then after school, they don't know what to do. They're getting into a lot of trouble. So from 3 to 5 p.m., it'd be great for them to have a extracurricular activity like this. Um, so that's where we started. And then someplace else heard about us and invited us there. That allows the community to take ownership in what is happening. We provide these programs. We quickly learned we needed to feed the girls because a lot of them weren't eating, and the meal that we were providing was the only meal that they would have during that day. Oftentimes, the only reason their parents would let them go to the program was because they would be getting a meal, and then the parents didn't have the burden of having to feed them that day. Um, and we spread like that. We spread virally until now we're in 15 locations working with almost a thousand girls. So it's super important from an educational standpoint too that you're working in a grassroots manner. And we employ 45 Haitians. Our senior staff is made up of Haitians, and really they're taking the leadership positions. At this point, we just kind of raise the money and consult with them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love what you said about really finding your voice. I think sometimes, we take it for privilege. When I was growing up, I had a myriad of extracurricular activities that I could go and become passionate about, but not everybody has that privilege, unfortunately. So really bringing them with those opportunities is amazing to really open those girls' eyes and everyone out there to what you can do when you bind together as a community and really help people find their passion and find their voice. Finding your voice has been something that I've been working on ever since my incident with cyberbullying, and being able to share that has been so powerful, impacting for me. So it's now become my mission. I think I can speak for a lot of the philanthropists out there, but our mission is to turn whatever experiences that we've had personally into that positive change to really accelerate social justice causes. There are so many out there. I'd like to switch gears a little bit, but Rainn, in an interview last September, you spoke about two causes. You spoke about racism and climate change, and even posted a monologue on your Instagram about these causes. And you had mentioned in that interview that you needed your voice to be heard. You found your voice and you needed it to be heard, even with the possibility of backlash. Having the platform that you do, what do you think is the importance for celebrities like yourself to use social media to promote causes that they are passionate about and really accelerate that movement and join that community of change makers?
Well, I think number one, it's important for everyone to have their voice be heard and to strive to make a difference and a positive impact in the world. Not just celebrities. Sometimes people feel, and I think students feel, well, no one cares about me, no one listens to me. Once I have a college degree, or once I have a job, or once I have 1,000 Instagram followers, or once I'm a celebrity, or once I'm a CEO, or whatever, then I will be heard. But thank God that didn't apply to Greta Thunberg. And so many of you know her story, but for those who don't, um, this is this little girl, started when she was like 9 years old, holding up a protest sign about climate change in front of the Swedish parliament every Friday. The idea came from her, it didn't come from her parents, something she felt passionate about. She's like, why is the government of Sweden not acquiescing with international climate goals? And she started a global movement, with tens or hundreds of millions of followers. And like so many of these movements, they're being founded by young women and girls who are taking an ever stronger leadership position. in social justice causes and in environmental causes. And so she didn't have an audience. She didn't have 1,000 people on Instagram. She wasn't a CEO, but she made an incredible difference. Now, we're not all going to become Greta Thunbergs, but it's important to speak out on what we're passionate about. What's tricky for celebrities is a lot of celebrities speak out about these issues, but it's just words. You know, their deeds don't match the words. Their charitable giving doesn't match their words. Their volunteerism doesn't match their words. Um, you've got to put your money where your mouth is. And this is a day and age where people are going to be looking much more at what you do than rather than what you say. Um, this is one of the problems with social media. It's like it's easy to get on social media all day long and say, social justice, social justice, social justice, social justice. And then you're just kind of partying with your friends and eating Big Macs and doing your homework and hanging out and playing video games and not really making a difference. And people feel like they've made a difference by yelling at people online or saying, you know, opinions or retweeting something or posting something. And that doesn't really, in fact, help. So part of this is like, yes, I have a social media megaphone. We all do to a certain extent, whether it's 10 people or 10 million people. But more importantly than that, we have to take action and not just use our megaphone. So we have to, you know, take the bus, get in the car, get on our bicycle, go down, volunteer, raise money, give money, make sacrifices um, in order to make a difference. That's just as important as allowing your voice to be heard.
Definitely. I think there are pros and cons to the social media aspect. One of the pros is that, you know, we were able to reach over 100 students to join our cause. One of the cons is that sometimes a click is misunderstood as doing good. And while that is a great first step, I'd like to say that everyone in the audience here took an amazing first step of even coming to the podcast and making yourself aware of these causes and LIDE Haiti and everything that Rainn is doing. You know, there's so much more that we can do. And I think that goes back to the mission of Humanity Rising and why I started the What Cause Inspires You podcast series is I saw firsthand these students doing amazing in their communities. Now, two things. One, they're youth, so they're under the ages 18, 21. No one really takes you seriously when you say, hey, I want to start a nonprofit. I want it to be an international nonprofit. And two, you know, it's social justice. And so sometimes that's also misconstrued, especially when gaining investment, which is why all of the Humanity Rising team really wants to elevate these youth change makers' voices and connect them with those opportunities, connect them with you all, with the community, to really bring that change into action and have that action accelerate and grow, hopefully worldwide. But on that note, you once called yourself, Rainn, a slacktivist, only doing kind of the simple activist efforts with little impact. But then after realizing that, changed up your methods of enacting change. So what advice do you have for our youth to avoid being those slacktivists and actually strive to make change that will impact the most lives?
Well, yes, what you're referring to is my role in climate change, because I was exactly like the person I described, occasionally sending out angry tweets and occasionally posting things about Earth Day or climate imperatives. And I kind of really, I don't know what happened, but after reading my like 857th article about the you know, the grotesque future that awaits us because of climate change, I was like, you know, Rainn, you've got to do more. You've got to do more. You can't, this is not going to cut it. What are you going to do? And right at that same time, this is how the universe works, I believe, people, a door opened. Someone said, this guy that I had met through various events said, I really need you to meet this scientist. Her name's Dr. Gail Whiteman, and she's a premier climate change activist scientist living in England. And I had a Zoom with her, and she blew me away. She's so passionate and articulate and kind and funny and focused and wise about the issue. And she works personally, she works with our students, and she's a professor, but she also works with corporations. She also works with government agencies in um, changing policy. She does a lot of activism at Davos, Switzerland, at the World Economic Forum. So she's also reaching the richest people on the planet, the real decision makers from the top down. And we can't do all work from the top down. We have to mostly do it from the bottom up. But if you can reach those people, you've got to reach those people. So I decided to join their board, and we went to Greenland together. We documented the trip, made it into a little documentary, got to meet Greta Thunberg, some other amazing scientists, visited the glaciers, saw firsthand the change that has been sweeping through Greenland over the last several decades. And then we got to go to Davos, Switzerland, to the World Economic Forum, and we camped out in tents on the lawn of a hotel, and set up a big science tent.
Wow.
The catchphrase of Arctic Base Camp is speaking science to power. So it's about sharing the science and making sure the scientists themselves are sharing the science, because scientists used to not think that that was their role. They're like, I'm just a scientist. I'm going to compile this data. I'm going to put it in my computer, and I'm going to publish it in a journal that's read by 150 people, and I'm going to teach my classes. That's kind of how, for decades, scientists kind of thought what their role should be. But we realized swiftly that scientists really need to speak out about what they know, especially when having to do with climate change and the environment. So since then, we've helped raise a lot of money, a lot of awareness, have connected the organization with a lot of other like-minded organizations. And so, I kind of, like I said, put my money where my mouth is, and you don't have to be a celebrity. And this is not about jetting to Greenland and jetting to Davos in order to do this kind of work. This is simply saying that if there is something, like you talked about cyberbullying, someone else was talking about stuttering, folks, you don't need to start your own nonprofit. You don't need to start your own movement. Sometimes we feel like, oh, that's what I need to do. Sometimes kids get into this in the college game. It's kind of like, oh, this will look really good in my college applications of like so-and-so, Marty Schlapkowitz started a nonprofit at his school to fight bullying or fight climate change. And, maybe that'll get me into Stanford or something like that. So that's a very misguided reason to be doing this stuff. But better yet, for the world, align yourself, like with this organization, align yourself with a like-minded organization that is making a difference, and volunteer your services to them, and follow through on that. I can't tell you how many people have said, I would love to work for LIDE Haiti. What you do is amazing. And we're like, okay, we need help with social media. Oh, great. I love social media. I'll do it. And I've had no less than 20 people say they were going to do it and not follow through. So it's hard to follow through. It's hard to commit to something. It's hard to take action. It requires sacrifice. It would be hours that you're not spending watching Bridgerton. You'd have to be spending volunteering. So, but find a like-minded organization that's doing what you most admire, what you're most passionate about, and be of service to them. Don't come in and tell them what they need to do. Be humble, start at the bottom. And if you need to clean their toilets, if you need to make copies, if you need to do a little Girl Scout cookie fundraiser on your corner with a lemonade stand or whatever it takes, that's a really important part of making a difference.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Sometimes I have students come and ask me, how do I know what cause I'm passionate about? Or should I just start this nonprofit because I think it can go somewhere? And if you genuinely think that it can go somewhere, then I say pour your heart and soul into it and follow that passion and find the hole in society that's missing. But a lot of the time, it's really just being exposed to a lot of the causes. For me, cyberbullying was a personal issue, but even before that, I am a Girl Scout. And so we cleaned creeks, and we did the Girl Scout cookies to donate to elderly and to donate to our causes. And for my dance team, I taught children with developmental disabilities. And I wasn't sure what I was passionate out of those, but I think, like Rainn said, it's really about digging deep into the dearths of all of those causes and finding which one resonates with you the most and your story the most. Because I promise you that when you can find that connection, then all of the social justice work you do just becomes work that you want to do. Sometimes I prioritize, don't tell my professors this, but I prioritize my What Cause Inspires You and Humanity Rising work over my schoolwork, because it's so inspiring seeing those children take the resources that they're given and fly with it and actually develop things that they couldn't even have imagined, because it really just started with their heart and something that they wanted to do. But Rainn, I can't quite agree on the sense that we've had social media people come in, because all of our ambassadors love working at Humanity Rising, and I've had an amazing team support me throughout this entire process. So I got very lucky on that sense. And
Good.
Speaking of speaking of that amazing leadership team, before we open it up to a Q&A with our audience, I actually like to introduce you to our Humanity Rising ambassador leadership team that I've been fortunate to work with. So why don't we start off with Evelyn?
Hi, everyone. My name is Evelyn Jang, and I'm a Humanity Rising ambassador. One of the programs I'm heavily involved with is the Peace Ambassador Program in partnership with the Institute of Economic Peace in Sydney, Australia. They have ambassadors in over 150 countries, so this is an extremely widespread global network of leaders. Essentially, what the program does is teach students how to measure peace. Because peace is not merely the absence of violence, there are many other aspects that are involved with maintaining and sustaining peace. So, in regards to peace, I have a question for Rainn. To what extent do you truly believe world peace is achievable?
Wow, that's the granddaddy of all questions, isn't it? That's fantastic. I love that you went right for that question. That's my favorite question in the world. You know, I am old. I am a very old. I'm a middle-aged dude. And when I was growing up in the 70s, people actually talked about world peace. They talked about nuclear disarmament. They talked about countries coming to the table, getting along, about loving one another. All you need is love. Um, and I miss those days and I miss those conversations. And nowadays, if you talk about world peace, people get very jaded and very cynical. And it's very easy to be jaded and cynical. Number one, it's very easy as a human being. Number two, it's very easy in contemporary society, seeing what you see, to get jaded and cynical, especially about world peace. So it's super important, I think, to understand that world peace is not just possible. World peace is inevitable. It's inevitable because the current way that we're running our world is unsustainable. You know, this world with, the three superpowers plus Europe and their giant armaments stored up, building, tearing down forests, constant commercial capitalism, materialism, and consumerism, driving market forces. The haves, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, the people of color and immigrant communities are shut out more and more, while the privileged become more and more privileged. It's absolutely unsustainable. So something's gonna blow. We're either gonna like really come to the table and work things out and disarm and work on the planet, or there'll be some giant, I don't want to say war. It doesn't have to be war, but just some kind of breakdown. Or humans will extinguish themselves on the planet, and then we'll have peace because there'll only be like lizards and cockroaches running around on planet Earth. But either way, peace is coming. It can come peaceably, for lack of a better word. It can come through tremendous hardship and turmoil. Both of those things are happening right now. I think this is one of the tough things for young people to see and understand, which is that two forces are working on the planet at the same time. We have forces of destruction and we have forces of creation. So you guys at Humanity Rising are these forces of good, forces of creation, proactive forces, bringing people together, talking about deep concepts, working, volunteering, being philanthropists, educating. And you see so much of this. And at the same time, we see so much disunity and people tearing each other down and hatred and a lack of justice, grave injustice. And so young people, I think, don't know where to look. Was like, well, all these people are doing these good things, but this is so awful. Oh, the world must be awful. But what these people are doing good things. Oh, maybe the world's good. It's like, no, there's two forces operating at the same time. So the point is, align yourself with the forces for good. Just like, forget the bad, align yourself with the forces of good, take a proactive journey towards social change, and eventually we'll get there. It may take us a few more decades or a few more centuries, but we can absolutely reach world peace.
Thank you so much for your response. I honestly do think that there is a lot of good in the world, but currently and in the past, there have been a lot of bad. So I am hoping for the best, and I do believe that our future generation can do a lot for us. So thank you for your response.
Now introducing Faith.
Hi, everyone. I'm Faith. I'm also a Humanity Rising ambassador. So as an ambassador, I've been a part of the development of our Humanity Rising Spiritual Empowerment Circles, which is an 8-week class in which students can learn about the world religions and spirituality in a conversational small group. I had the opportunity to be a part of the first circle with Evelyn and Devon, who is going to be on later. And these classes were an amazing way to connect with students across the country and also learn more about ourselves. So on the topic of spirituality, my question for you, Rainn, is what do you think of spirituality and how do you think we can encourage it among our youth more?
Well, that's a great question. And I love that your name is Faith, by the way. And this is your topic. That was not lost on me. So my spiritual journey is, I see personally, the main journey that I'm on. I believe that we're not just kind of a random assortment of molecules that came together and that we're these kind of fleshy creatures somewhere above monkeys and then we die and that's the end of the story. That's just me. I know, call me crazy. I believe there's more to us as human beings than just our bodies and our brains, that our souls have some kind of much longer, eternal, mysterious journey to go on. So the world's great religions, which by the way includes going all the way back, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, Buddhism, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Dhammapadas of the Buddha. I'm not just talking about, the Abrahamic religions like Judaism and Christianity and Islam, but all of these world religions have been teaching this and many other profound spiritual truths. There is more to life than just pleasure, material goods, and status. There's more to life than just physical comfort. There's some mystery around the corner. There's some mystery in who we are. There's some mystery in creation and the power behind the physical universe. Now, the reason I'm getting all metaphysical here is to say that I believe that spirituality begins with compassion. And as we hold people in deep, deep compassion, then we need to take social action to make the world a better place if our compassion is great enough. So there are many tools to be found in spirituality, whether it's general spirituality and you go to a yoga class and you like a certain crystal and you like a certain quote by the Dalai Lama, or whether you're a member of a religion, an ascribed member of a certain religion, whatever it is, there are tools to be found in spirituality that can help make the world a better place, that can bring peace, solace, connection. Yes, world religions have done terrible things over hundreds of years, just some of the worst human tragedies of all time have come from religion. However, they have also provided great peace, solace, and connectivity between people since the dawn of humanity. So it's super important to weave that journey that we're all on in with our work on planet Earth. Jesus's brother James said, "Faith without works is dead." There's no such thing as faith without doing deeds that, again, come from, are inspired by, and come from our hearts and our compassion. Thanks, Faith.
Thank you.
Beautifully said, Rainn. I think a lot of what spirituality comes down to is that empathy aspect. It's being able to empathize with one another, to understand one another in order to really help one another at the end of the day. And that empathy, I guess, ties in a lot of our social justice causes. But although we do encourage youth to find their service passions in a variety of these causes, anti-bullying is Humanity Rising's signature program. Bullying is a nationwide and worldwide epidemic. The short and long-term effects of bullying include anxiety, depression, and even suicide. Suicide is now the second leading cause of death among teens, and bullying has only gotten worse during the pandemic. 1 in 3 youth are cyberbullied. And in 2020, the cyberbullying increased 73% due to a spike in social media, which only means that now more than ever is that time to put a stop to this injustice. More than 50% of kids who are cyberbullied never tell anyone about it. And I used to be one of those kids until I saw the support around me and actually gained the courage to speak up. We have several events coming up this month around the cause and inspiring youth to become upstanders and put an end to bullying nationwide. One such event is on Saturday, April 24th at 12 p.m. Central Time. Devon Moore will be leading a behind-the-screen anti-cyberbullying training for a curriculum that we both created based on our bullying experiences. So now I'd like to ask Devon to come in and share a little bit about his story.
Thanks, Alicia. And hi, I'm Devon. I'm a Humanity Rising ambassador, and I'm the founder of #Race to Speak Up, which is an anti-bullying organization. I started #Race to Speak Up after I was racially cyberbullied in middle school. 3 of my former middle school classmates photoshopped my face with a gorilla suit. They put my face with a gun aimed toward my head, and they put my face going into the trash. Now, I knew that bullying wasn't in just that school. It's all over, and I want to work to put an end to that. And so Humanity Rising has given me a platform to help spread this anti-bullying message. Through Humanity Rising, I co-created a 14-week anti-cyberbullying curriculum called #BehindTheScreen, along with Alicia, in order to educate students as well as teachers about the science of cyberbullying and how to prevent it. We have a monthly webinar, Behind the Screen, The Harms of Cyberbullying, where we discuss what the curriculum entails, and I would love for you all to join. Rainn, I'm so glad to learn about your work with LIDE and helping others. I know how helping just one person can make you feel really amazing. And you have a lot of great things to share, which is why I want to ask you, have you ever been bullied? And what would you say to kids who have been bullied?
Thank you. And Devon, I'm so sorry to hear about that bullying that you underwent. That's just breaks my heart. And yeah, cyberbullying, I think, is so toxic because it's so easy to do. It's anonymous, it's quick. You can just devastate people so easily online with the tools at people's disposal. Yeah, I was bullied as a kid. I absolutely was. And part of the wonderful work that you're doing at Humanity Rising, and you and Alicia are doing, and others that are working on fighting cyberbullying, is bullying was accepted when I was a kid. It's like, it's just going to happen, especially if you're nerdy. I was on the chess team and I played the bassoon in the band. I've got my bassoon back there. And I was dorky. I played Dungeons and Dragons all weekend, and I got beat up and I got punched in the halls. I get hit in the stomach with a I mean, this was like real bullying, like in the movies you see of the bullying, like, hey, nerd, like, that kind of stuff. And we just took it, and you didn't even tell teachers. They didn't care. If you tell the teacher, they'd be like, oh, suck it up, just ignore them. It was just like, just ignore them was the, was the catchphrase. And so I applaud the work you're doing, and it's so important that we create spaces where it's safe to learn, and kids learn to develop the compassion for one another. They wouldn't dream of hurting someone else's feelings.
Thank you for your response. And yeah, bullying really does impact you. And I'm so sorry to hear about what's going on with you, but it definitely hurts a lot, and it affects way too much of the youth.
Yes.
Yeah, it almost seems like, at least for me, it was any time that I really tried to overcome something, someone would try to put me down. And I think that's one of the hardest parts about being an activist in general, is you're making yourself vulnerable to people for comments. I don't know one activist that has not gotten those negative comments online. And unfortunately, it has become a part of the job, but building the community that at least I have in Humanity Rising makes all of that go away. And so again, eternally grateful for that. But to everyone out there who is going through something, just know that you have people that can support you. You can join Humanity Rising and we'll immediately have a community that will help you deal with anything that you're going through, bullying or any other cause related. So thank you so much, Devon, again. And you can register for Devon's event through our website or through interview. Humanity Rising is also partnering with Kirk Smalley of Stand for the Silent to build upstanders and end bullying through kindness and respect. So I'd like to now introduce you to Kirk Smalley. Kirk, would you please share a little bit about your story and why you believe that youth have the power to end this bullying?
Like Alicia said, my name is Kirk, and 3,990 days ago, I lost my 11-year-old son, Ty, to suicide because of being bullied for over 2 years. Recently, I lost my wife. She died during a procedure to repair an aneurysm, and she's finally back with her baby. But Laura and I started Stand for the Silent because we realized that, there's an old saying, Alicia, that it takes a village to raise a child. And I firmly believe that's true. Schools can't stop bullying. Parents can't stop bullying. And the kids can't stop bullying. But as a community, as a village, together, we can. We can make great inroads into slowing it down at least. Will it ever end completely? I don't know. But I'm going to go to my grave trying. In the last 4.5 years, I've talked to a little over 1,600,000 kids at 1,597 schools now. And I personally have seen the power of our young people in this world. I've seen what they can do with their voices. I've been the recipient of it. I mean, it was a bunch of high school kids that helped us start Stand for the Silent, and it's become a worldwide organization now. We have chapters in 39 states and 18 different countries, and we're growing leaps and bounds every day. And it's all because of the youth in our country and the power of their voice. The statistics in this world are literally staggering. You mentioned that cyberbullying had increased 73%, since the pandemic. 1 out of every 4 children in America right now will actually have a plan on how they would take their own life before they would graduate from high school. Guys, we can't live in a world with numbers like that. Not when we have the power to make it stop. So, I would really love to see as many people as possible get involved with standing up, speaking out. Join us this Saturday at 1 o'clock. We're doing an event here with Humanity Rising, and we'd love to have your voice. We'd love to have your passion. So come out and see us.
Thank you so much, Kirk. You know, I've heard you speak multiple times now, and every single time you do, I get a little touched by it, and it brings tears in my eyes. Tears, obviously, for the stories of bullying victims, but conversely, I think also tears of hope, because Kirk, you've shared your story with over 1.5 million youth and adults across the country through transformative anti-bullying assemblies, and those are now youth and adults on our side to actually put an end to this injustice. I get very emotional when talking about the anti-bullying cause, just because of how personal it is to a lot of people here. But like Kirk mentioned, this Saturday, Humanity Rising will be holding a Stand for the Silent assembly with Kirk at 1 p.m. Central Time. So I invite all of you to join us for Kirk's powerful assembly. Space is limited, so please register as soon as possible. And you can find the link to register under the events tab on our website or through Interview. And by joining Interview, you will be among the first to see our many events, and will also be eligible for service learning hours and scholarships for participating. I think the link was also dropped in the chat. And finally, we are also partnering with the Illinois Holocaust Museum to bring their just launched Nelson Mandela Tour to our students virtually, which will include a Q&A session and a call to action afterwards. So please join us for our many events, and remember that this is your movement. You took the first step today, coming out, being present with us, and learning about all the ways that you can step in and help your community. By participating in Humanity Rising, you will have an opportunity to become your best self and engage with like-minded people, make new friends, and make a difference. And you'll be eligible for service learning hours and scholarship awards. So definitely be sure to check out our calendar of events, and please join us on the Interview platform. You can also consider making a donation to help us bring our programs to more youth, get your company and employees involved with Humanity Rising, and help inspire and reward our youth leaders in the communities. You can reach out to us at partners@humanityrising.org to learn more about the many ways you can get involved, or text GIVE to 605-600-2424 to donate directly to the movement. The donations are going directly to help run our other events and also get students those scholarships to advance the work that they are doing in their communities. Thank you so much, Rainn, for sharing your journey with us on Humanity Rising's What Cause Inspires You podcast. And congratulations to all of our finalists and winners of the What Cause Inspires You Rainn Scholarship Challenge. Thank you to all of the youth who are part of the Humanity Rising movement and are creating a more compassionate and better world. And do not forget to join in on Humanity Rising's social media and podcast channels to stay updated with our new episode releases, monetary awards, professional events, and so much more. Thank you all for being here today. I'm your host, Alicia Gupta, and I hope you all continue changing the world.